my video.
Yeah.
Hello guys, and welcome to this Volks Wizard video. Now today's video is going to be a little bit different to normal because instead of me prattling on about a car for 20 minutes, I'm actually going to interview the owner. I'm hoping these videos over time will form a series in which I try and capture the passion and loyalty that the Volkswagen Group products inspire, because there aren't many of the car manufacturers that have such a loyal following. Today I'm going to interview Mr. Alex Fisk, who works here at Volkswagen Group's head office in Milton Keynes, the famous Blakeland site, who owns this rather lovely Mark 1. But before we talk about the car, I think we need to get Alex's job out of the way because it's a very interesting job that I think you might be interested to hear more about. So, Alex, tell us a little bit about what you do here at Milton Keynes.
Sure, thanks for having me, Andrew. I'm Digital PR Manager for Audi UK. I've been doing this job now for about 6 years. And basically what the job entails is it's a hybrid role really of traditional media relations and also new digital side of things. So on the one hand, I'll be writing the press releases that you see come out every week about new models, new technologies, etc, etc. And then I'll also be attending the new vehicle launches, which can be in the UK and also abroad, a number of which you've come on. And then the digital side of things is trying to look for new ways to get Audi UK on the digital map, so whether it's via YouTube, social platforms like Twitter, Instagram, and to look for new areas of influence really. So yeah, it's a really interesting role, it's a busy role. We launch a lot of new cars and we always have a lot going on, so yeah, I really do enjoy it. 7
new Audis in the next very short period. On
Yes.
The front cover of Autocar this week.
I know, yeah.
It's going to be a busy time for you then.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's no time to twiddle your thumbs.
You've probably heard of Supercars of London, Paul Wallace. Well, Alex, I claim to fame, I think for me, was the first person to give Paul Wallace an invite to a press event, I gather. Because if you watch Paul's RS3 video from a few weeks ago, he actually said that was the first one he went to, and he was really pleased to be back on the launch back in, I think, was it May?
Yeah, that's right. So he came originally, this was a few years ago now, to Shelsley Walsh, where we launched the RS3.
That was an amazing watch, wasn't it? They could drive.
Yes, yeah, they could drive up the hill. It was really good. He came along to that, and yeah, it was his first experience of the whole Audi world, if you like. And since then, he's obviously his audience has grown and grown, and yeah, it's really nice that he still remembers that from back in the day.
Yeah, well, I was inspired to make videos through Paul Wallace's video back then, because the thought of driving an RS3 on a press event up the hill at Shelsley Walsh was just like the dream come true. So I thought, what can I do then? That was 2015, wasn't it?
Yes, that's right.
So 4 years later, I'm here in Milton Keynes, which I guess is progress, although Paul Wallace is somewhere in Monaco probably right now. So there we go. It's all relative.
Yes.
Anyway, enough about that. Now it's time to talk about your lovely Mark 1.
Sure.
So this isn't a GTI, as you can probably tell. It's a GL model. It's a 1983. For me, I know I'm associated with GTIs, but for me as someone growing up in Birmingham, the GL was a lot more common because the GTI was a bit of a London thing. It was like a fashion statement, a bit like Chelsea tractors were. In Birmingham, where people were less pretentious, the GL was bought because it was a functional sort of 5-door car. And for me, growing up in Birmingham, these were much more common. So for me, it's much more evocative to see a GL than a GTI, strangely. But anyway, enough about my memories. You're obviously a bit younger than me, so I think when this car was made, how old were you then?
Oh, I wasn't even born when this car was made. So yeah, it was made 6 years before I was born.
Wow.
Yes, so I've had this car since I first started driving, so passed my test when I was 17, and my dad actually bought it a couple of years before that. He used it for a little while just as a runaround, with the intention of it always being my first car. So originally I was on the lookout for a Mark IV Polo, and my dad...
Sensible.
Yeah, good first car to have. My dad was a mechanic before he retired, and he said, why don't we buy a Polo from a salvage yard that needs crash repair, and we can do it together. It can be a nice little project, and then you can use that as your first car. Well, okay, that's fine. So we went along to the salvage yards in Southend. That's where I'm from originally, and this just so happened to be sitting outside the salvage yard, and went inside, and my dad said, oh, is the Golf for sale? And the guy said, yeah, it only came in yesterday. And Dad said, oh, how much do you want for it? And the guy said, oh, 150 quid. So Dad almost bit his arm off, but said before that, put his poker face on and said, I'll give you 140 quid if you get it delivered to my front door. And the guy said, yeah, sure. go for that. So yeah, that was in that would have been in 2006. So it's gone up in value a fair bit since then.
I think the problem with older cars like this is that they're worth so little, but the labour costs are
Yes.
what put them into scrapyards. So if you do it yourself, did you use a
Yeah, oh yeah, we did that. Yeah, water pump I think was about 30 quid,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was back on the road.
It's not driving the cam belts on these, is it? It's not quite
No.
easy.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's probably what happened is that things started to go wrong with it. That I know that the lady who owned it wasn't mechanically minded and may have been put off by scary repair bills by garages, and then thought, oh, it's getting on a bit now, it's quite old, probably easier just to get a new car.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I ended up with it, which was nice. Yeah, so it's had a fair bit of work done to it since then, mostly mechanical. So recently, very recently actually, in the last couple of weeks, it had the top end rebuilt. So the head gasket went on it effectively, and it went rather dramatically.
What's the mileage now?
So it's on 118,000.
118. So generally that's the kind of mileage where cars do tend to need a bit of an overhaul in this period, particularly if they're carburettor, because they tend to not run as cleanly fuel-wise, which wears things out a bit prematurely. Injection cars are much more finely tuned and therefore last a bit longer.
Yeah, and the valves were really caked up on this.
Running rich.
Yeah.
But you're running a Weber carb anyway, aren't you?
I am. So
we'll come to that.
Yeah, the Weber carb on this is the 36 TLP, which is a direct replacement. It's a manual choke, whereas originally it had the Pierberg, which was the auto choke.
Yeah.
The reason
the
reason I changed to the Weber was that I used to drive this every single day to and from school and then to university, and it never ever let me down. It was a brilliant car. The only thing was that the Pierberg started to deteriorate, and if I had more time I would have taken it off, had it rebuilt and then refitted it, but I needed the car for the next day to get to school, and was reading online that the Weber was direct fit, really easy to maintain,
better on fuel.
Yeah, a lot simpler. So I bought the Weber, I think it was a couple of £100, had it fitted, and then I could get to school, you know, in the next couple of days, and it's been on there ever since. I've still got the original Pierberg.
Keep the old one, because you're a bit of an originality freak, aren't you?
I am, yeah. I'll show you a bit around the car later, but yeah, I like it to be as original as it can be, how it left the factory, really. So the Pierberg at the moment, it was always intended to be a temporary replacement, but it just so happens that it's been on there for many years because it runs well. But one day I will get the Pierberg put back on, because I don't like the fact that you have to pull the choke out manually when it was always originally an auto choke. That was part of the GL spec, if you like.
It was very advanced at the time.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, then let's have a close look around it.
Yeah, sure.
It's no way perfect, is it? But it's a very original example. That's why I like it, because I mean, you know, most of the paint's original, isn't it?
It is, yeah, definitely. Yeah, pretty much all the paint you see on the front is original. I think the roof has had some paint. There's been a bit of paint on the rear quarter on the passenger side, but yeah, all down this side of the car is original as well. It did have a few parking things and dents in it, but they've been taken out now, which was nice. And you can see there's a few little bits, like the original owner, he used to leave his keys in the lock, and then he touched up the chips himself, which are not great, but it kind of adds to the patina of the car. So that's, you know, it's just nice. It gives it character, really. And you know, apart from having a full respray on that, there's not much I can do with that, really, but I don't mind it.
Tell us about the dent, though.
Yes, so
the dent, the famous dent.
The famous dent. The one big issue with this car cosmetically is the dent. So, like I said, I used to use this car every single day when I was at university in Kent, and I'd commute back to Essex at the weekends. So anyway, I was happily driving down the road one day in Medway, which is not a particularly nice part of Kent, where I was anyway, and two kids threw a brick off a railway bridge at the car, and it dented in the front wing. I'm really lucky that it didn't go through the windscreen, because my wife was sitting in the passenger seat, so it could have been worse. But so ever since then it's had the dent in, and I'm kind of in two minds, because it's the original wing. Wings have never been off. And it's on, there's a very light swage line there as well, so it's right on the line, so it would require a proper respray to get it done. You can't really tap it out. But so one day I'll probably get this wing replaced. You can actually get new wings from Volkswagen now, genuine wings. I think they're about 250 quid.
Yeah.
But again, it's one of those things. It's like how far do you go, and it's kind of tells a story about the car as well. It does look very unsightly.
Yeah, I think the patina's fine, but I think this is just so ugly that you need to deal with it somehow.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you need to replace the wing though, but
yeah,
you're fussy. So
the other thing as well is I've never really had the money to get the wing done. So now I've got the mechanical work done on it, which was far more important than the cosmetic.
Yeah.
Now I know that it runs really nice. I'll try and save up a bit to get that done.
Definitely.
But
excellent.
Apart from that, it's pretty straight, and all the trim bits are nice and good, and inside as well. As you'll know, a lot of Mark 1s will have had speaker holes cut out of the partial shelf.
Not so much GLs.
Not so much GLs, no, but this managed to survive all that, and it's very original. Like the seats, all the fabric's still in really good condition. It's not ripped or torn anywhere.
It's got that smell about it as well.
Yeah, that familiar smell.
Sort of like, well, I'm pretty sure it's cigarettes, but it's a distant memory.
Yes.
Cigarettes and 1980s tweed, that sort of combination.
Yes.
A bit like probably a school teacher of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, with elbow patches.
Yeah. Leather elbow patches. Yeah. A bit like the Anyway, look at that.
Yeah, so it's nice and original in here, and actually that's part of the GL spec, is having the covers on the top of the doors, because they're
painted. They're normally like a.
They're normally painted, exposed, and also having this material that matches the seats as well.
Yeah.
The nicer window winders.
What do you mean nicer?
Well, they've got the chrome rings on, so the standard models just had black window winders.
You're really spoiling us.
Oh yeah, luxurious touches, and just little things like the chrome detailing around the vents.
Yeah. So where's the Apple CarPlay and stuff like that?
Somewhere under there. No, it's not. I wish it did have CarPlay, but
it's amazing what we were tantalised with in the 1980s, isn't it? Well, when you were still a twinkle in your dad's eye.
Yeah.
But yeah, 4-speed.
4-speed, yeah. So you could get a 5-speed gearbox with this car.
The 4+E.
4+E, really. That was the option. So that was the only option this car is missing. Was the 4+E gearbox, or you could have had an automatic. Obviously, a lot of GLs were actually automatics, and they're 3-speed auto and not particularly great. It kind of kills the performance.
I can imagine.
Whereas this is quite a nice little engine in terms of performances, because it's quite a lightweight car. It goes quite well, as you'll see a bit later on.
What I find fascinating is that the steering wheel doesn't have the Volkswagen logo on it.
Yeah, it's
I take it. Is that the wolf?
Yes, it is. It's the Wolfsburg crest.
So the Wolfsburg crest. So bearing in mind the significance of the Volkswagen Roundel, to not have it on the steering wheels, it's a bit like seeing an Alpina badge on a BMW. It doesn't seem right.
So that is original for the car, and that was a GL specification item as well. So the steering wheel is a bit thicker, nicely padded, whereas the standard models, say if you had like a Golf CL, the steering wheel rim is a lot thinner and it feels a lot more basic. So it's kind of all these little touches that add up to make it a bit nicer, and there's lots of chrome detailing everywhere that around there that you didn't get on the lesser models as well.
And you've got a rev counter, which if I remember rightly was quite a rare thing in the 80s.
Yeah, usually had a clock.
Yeah, brilliant. Analog clock.
Yeah. So I'll give you a look under the bonnet as well.
Yes, let's have a look under the bonnet.
So it's had a little bit of work under here cosmetically. There's still more that needs to be done. So there's a couple of bits that I need to paint up. But when it had the head off, it was a good opportunity to paint the rocker cover and a couple of other items. I do need to paint the fan cowling.
Common, standard.
Yeah, standard. But it's all original under here except for the Weber. But the good thing with the Weber is that once the airbox is on, you wouldn't know it wasn't standard.
It's standard.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things I need to do just to bring it up to how it should be really. So some like non-original hose clips, which I've actually ordered, they're on their way. And just little bits like that really. It has got electronic ignition on as well, just because points really are
totally unreliable.
I like to be able to get in this car and go, and I know it's only a 4-door hatch that isn't particularly exciting. It's not like a Boxster or something, but I use this as a weekend car and I go out in it for fun, and I like to be able to just get in it, turn the key and know that it's just going to be reliable, and the electronic ignition helps with that. No power steering on this. The steering is quite communicative once you get up to speed.
Yeah, I don't think you need it though, because the tyres...
No, the tyres are tiny.
Where's the other half of the tyre gone?
Yeah, but the good thing about that is the tyres are cheap as
Well,
well. I think I
imagine they
can
are.
get a set of 4 fitted for about 200 quid, which is not bad.
No, I
Not
remember
bad at
those
all.
days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this was the next model down from the GTI, wasn't it? At the time?
Yes, that's right. So, yeah, it was kind of the top level before you got to the GTI, top trim, I should say.
Yeah.
So you had a GX as well, but that was more of the kind of sporty variety cosmetically.
Yeah, I remember that. It had the check trim of the GTI sort
Yeah,
of, didn't it?
and that
One
had
of
the
those.
steeper spoiler on
Did
the
it?
front as well.
Wow.
Whereas this was meant to be your luxury specification at the time. I've got the original brochure here.
Let's have a look at it.
which
Give us a
is-
quick flick through it.
Yeah, so
We want to see photos.
yeah, this shows you. So it's from same year as the
Yeah.
car, and there we go. Please note that a rev counter and digital clock is standard on the Golf GL and not a large clock as illustrated in this brochure. So going back to what you were saying before. So there's a GL there. Interesting with the brochure as well, the images are actually flipped because they're left-hand drive cars.
They carried on doing that for a long time.
Another GL there. That's another signature Q of the GL is the chrome strip along the back, and these are also bigger than they are on normal models. The trim lines there.
Where are your chrome bits on the bumpers?
So that's an interesting one with this car, is that all black GL models came with black inserts on the bumper from the factory. Yeah, and there'll be a lot of people who will tell you no, they've been painted, but no, originally they came with black bumpers. 1.5 litres, the 1457cc, 51 kilowatt output, which is 70 brake horsepower, 5,600 RPM. And in terms of what that gives you performance wise, I think it does say here somewhere. Oh yeah, here we go. So the manual, 0 to 50 miles an hour, 8.2 seconds. It does jump quite considerably. 0 to 60 miles an hour, 12.7. It actually feels quicker than that. That might be something to do with the Weber.
But why do they take 4 seconds to do 10 miles an hour?
I don't know.
That can't be right. What's the GTI doing at the time?
GTI was doing
6.
0 to 60 in 8.2 seconds, which sounds right.
Rules.
And then it was a bit of a, so on the automatic model you can see it jumped up to 14.9 seconds as well. Yeah, so it's an interesting one. But then in terms of weight, it's quite impressive. So for the manual, 805 kilograms.
That's very light. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably dry with no fluid.
Yeah,
isn't it? 'Cause
probably
they're
is,
roughly
yeah.
about a ton when they're filled up.
So yeah, there's a bit of technical specification on the car, and yeah, there's those tyre sizes as well: 155, 13s, and a 5J rim.
Yeah. So is there a smaller tyre available? No.
No, I think.
there's
There's
145
145 on the 1.1. Yeah.
Christ.
Yeah.
Space saver.
Yeah, and I think back then, well, you'll probably know better than I do. The tread patterns, would they have been cross-ply back then, or they probably would have just shifted
I'm not
over?
that old. I wasn't driving in 1983.
I guess they probably would have crossed over by then, because I know the first Golfs.
Doesn't it
the
say
early
here radial?
I don't think it does actually. No. Oh, here we go. Sorry, radial ply.
There
Yeah.
we go.
So it must have been on the cusp.
Yeah.
Because the early Golfs, really early Golfs in the late 70s had cross ply.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Excellent. Well, can I have a go in it then?
Of course you can.
I feel a bit nervous driving what's going to be a family heirloom, but what could possibly go wrong? So, without any further ado, let's go and drive Alex's lovely Mk1 Golf GL. Well, here we are. My first car was a 1983 Polo bread van, very similar. I wanted one of these, but the insurance was like double the price.
Oh, really?
So it does feel familiar. Nice crisp start.
Yeah.
So 4-speed gearbox. Interesting. I'm obviously going to be selecting 5 quite a few times initially.
Yeah. You get used to it. On the motorway, doing 70, it's about 3,500 RPM, so it can get a bit wearing.
So you're not going to get done for speeding on the motorway without knowing
that you're doing it. Yeah. I'm used to it now, but yeah, you do often think, oh, I would like a 5th cog, but it's of its time, really, isn't it?
certainly is. I've never had a steering wheel where I can see my feet so clearly. It's like watching one of those videos where someone's put a GoPro on their feet for towing heel and toe.
Quite a big steering wheel as well, isn't it?
Yeah. Can I try the Hall?
Go for it. Should work. There you go.
It's like you can't just press it half-heartedly.
No, you have to give it. Yeah, and it's a dual tone horn as well. That was another GL specification.
Wow.
You got all the luxuries back in the day.
People who buy up GTIs would kill for a dual tone horn. What I'm slightly worried about are the brakes. So I'm thinking your dad bought you this as the first car, and Mark 1s are famous for not having brakes. Did your dad not like it?
I think he just thought, you know what, this will make sure that he becomes a good driver, someone who's aware of what's going on in front of him.
Yeah.
Because you have to anticipate this car, you really do, especially on the motorway.
There's no ramming the brakes on last minute when there's stationary traffic.
No, you will end up hitting the back of the car in front of you.
And it's not probably the best car to do that in either, is it? Really?
No, it's not. It would crumple up quite easily. But again, you know, you could say, oh, you know, is it, or was it safe as a first car? Well, you know, we were all running around in them back in the 80s, so what's changed? Okay, I know modern cars are a lot safer now, but again, it makes you more aware of what's going on, and it makes you respect being in a car, especially when you're 17, 18. You need to have that respect for being on the road, don't you? So actually, I think it was quite a good idea he had to give me a classic. See, they're okay once you...
That's quite good.
Yeah, once you're on the pedal and you give it a decent amount of pressure, they're fine.
That's good. I think you could lock up easily in the wet.
Oh yeah, you can lock up easily in it. Yeah. That's the other thing it teaches you as well, so it teaches you how to cadence brake. Yeah, and I think that's a skill that probably 90% of drivers don't have now, is because they just rely on the ABS.
How can a car that weighs so little roll so much? It defies the law of physics.
I know.
In a bad way.
Yeah.
I mean, character?
What I find you do, is I've got it down to a T now, is same with speed bumps actually. So with a speed bump, you come up to a speed bump and you brake just before the speed bump to allow the suspension to squat and then come off the brake, and then it will lift up.
It's like a lift function on the supercar.
Yeah, and it will take the bump then, and it's actually quite comfortable. So you kind of anticipate the bump coming up. Similar with cornering. So if you're going into a corner quite fast, you give it a bit of, say we're coming up to a right hand corner now.
I won't do it. I won't do it as you're telling me. I'll do it on the next one.
Bit of left hand steering and kind of chuck it in.
What, like a Scandinavian flick?
Yeah, do a bit of a Scandi flick with it.
No, I think it'd be a Scandinavian FUCK more than... whoa!
Bit of a flick.
Pigeon
there. Kamikaze pigeon. Yeah, a bit of a flick, and the car will settle itself by the time it's mid-corner. So it's quite fun. It's quite fun. It must look hilarious if you're travelling behind me though, because the car is like all over the shop like this. I've had people commenting before, so you can see. Bit of wheel squeal there.
Got to have the wheel squeal in my video.
Yeah. And this will lift the back wheel just like a GTI as well. Yeah. So when I was at school, a lot younger, maybe a bit more stupid than I am now.
Really?
Round roundabouts, and have the rear wheel tucked in all the time. It's a good bit of fun. But then again, it was only at low speed, so it wasn't hurting.
That's true. That's the beauty of cars like this. I mean, you've got skinny little tyres.
Yeah.
The road's perfectly dry, and it feels more playful than a modern car in the wet.
Yeah.
But it does teach you a bit about feel, because you are on the limits of grip. Quite easily.
I would say you're on the limit of grip in this car.
In a straight line?
Yeah. In a fast corner. Probably at about 40 miles an hour. Whereas in my company car, I've got an A4 TDI Quattro, and I could go into the same corner at 70 if I really wanted to, and you wouldn't even get a chirrup from the tyres. That's the difference. Whereas this has taught me over the years, how to get the best out of it. Again, like I was saying before, of course I know it's not a sports car. It's going to be devoid of feel in many ways, but then in other ways it gives you a lot more feel than a more modern car would. So it's just about knowing how to extract the best out of it.
Yeah.
you know, we're getting a modern car now, and you can just get in it and go, and you know, it's so refined and hushed, and it will give you everything that you need. It will almost be a mobile office, and you can do 70 in it, and you won't even realise you're doing 70. Whereas in this, everything needs some kind of control, and you need to be aware of the inputs you're giving it for it to respond back. And so, say for example, if you want to go on a long road trip, it can be quite tiring.
Which you have done.
I have done.
Thanks for reminding me. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, I've driven around Europe in like Porsches and Audis and stuff, and I find that tricky. And that's in the summer. And you drove this to Wolfsburg with snow on the ground.
I did.
Do you remember?
So it was when the Beast from the East hit. So it was actually that week.
That March 2018.
That was March 2018. Yeah. And basically, I had no choice to go in that week. Like I'd had all the ferry booked and hotel booked quite far in advance before we knew the weather was going to get that bad.
Wasn't there a date?
Yeah, the reason that I wanted to go on the trip, particularly in that week, was that it was actually the 35th anniversary of the car first being registered in the UK. So it was a nice kind of birthday for the car. So I thought, no, I really want to go. Don't care that there's snow and ice on the ground. It had snow tyres on it, which I'd had fitted that afternoon that we were heading off. The ferry was in the evening. So anyway, got them fitted and then headed over to Wolfsburg, and actually by the time we'd got on the ferry and got over to France was a lot better. The snow had melted by that point for the most part, and in Germany it was a lot colder. Very, very cold, but it was too cold for it to snow.
Right. So was the road?
The roads were fine. They were fine. They just deal with it better over there anyway, don't they?
Was there snow on the side of the road?
Yeah, there was snow in the fields, but and the rivers were basically blocks of ice. You know, you could see it all cracked up. But car handled it fine. I think it went down to about -8 at one point. Had to top up the coolant fairly regularly, but again, I think that was because the head gasket was on its way out.
Which you've since dealt with.
Since dealt with that. But yeah, it was great. And the only issue I had was that I'd actually done a coolant change that morning that we were leaving, and I hadn't done one of the hose clips up tight enough. So got to Germany, parked up in the hotel, noticed a slight weep, and there was a bit of a puddle in the morning, and a set alarm bell was ringing. I thought, oh god, but no, actually it was because the hose wasn't tightened up properly, probably a bit of pressure from the engine being hot, and when it cooled down again, so I tightened it up and away we went. It was fine, and that was literally the only problem I had. And the nice thing was that on the way there, because a lot of it was de-restricted autobahn as well, that I managed to get an indicated 108 miles an hour out of the car, I believe, which is probably, you know, in real speed, probably about 99, 100 miles an hour.
Yeah. What's the official top speed?
Official top speed, I'm not sure. It was saying in the book, but I know a GTI was 112 miles an hour, so this probably was around 105, I'd imagine. Yeah. And you know what the German cars are like, they're quite conservative with their top speeds, don't they? So GTI you probably could get, Mark II, you probably could get about 118 out of, I reckon, if you were trying. So yeah, I was quite pleased with that.
That's more impressive than Joe Kinney's getting 211 out of that R8.
Out of the R8, yeah. It was quite funny. So when it was doing the 108, the flex in the doors and the chassis, you could put your hand up here. Well, I still can do it now. Actually, I can fit my fingers between the chassis and the door.
You took your hand off the steering wheel at 108 miles an hour.
Yeah, because it wasn't all over the shop. Actually, no, it was quite stable. But you could feel the door swinging about, and the air rush coming through as well. It was loud, but yeah, it was fine. It was fine.
I haven't driven many Mark 1s in my time. I can probably count them on one hand, and it's just interesting to see where the genesis of the Golf was and why it developed into what it is today. And with this sort of foundation, it makes perfect sense that the Golf is the most popular car in